Yeah, look, I think all graduates ideally do develop the skills of critical thinking. Certainly, one of the units that I'm involved with, ethics and social responsibility, this is a key in trying to equip people with sort of intellectual tools for good ethical and moral reasoning and understanding there are different perspectives that can be taken. And I know we try and do this, for example, also in law, critical thinking, but it's across really all areas that we need to encourage this. Now, obviously, the face-to-face format is not the universally across the university. It's still commonly used, but we've got more and more interaction online, and I think that presents some traps for people in communication, because in an online medium we don't have the benefit of checking in with people through their body language. We perhaps are quicker to make comments, perhaps flippantly. We don't see what effect they're having, so I do think some caution is needed in the online environment. I mean, just as it is in face-to-face interactions, but extra caution because of somehow the distance that the online environment creates, and that it's possibly easier to offend in that medium.
So, in terms of different communication mediums, I think face-to-face has its problems, but I personally find it much easier because you've got all the body language cues, you've got time, pitch and tone. You can, if you see that you're upsetting someone, you've got a fairly strong indicator that that's happening, and you can take remediation action and sort of calm yourself down. Provide some sentences that indicate that you're not rejecting the person. You can apologise face to face for things you've said that might be a bit intemperate or offensive to them. In the online environment, it's much more difficult because apart from emojis, you've just got written text, and emojis are very helpful, but they're not the same as a warm smile or a relaxed body. So I think in the online environment it's very important to be quite careful what you say, and when I'm writing to people that I disagree with, I consider who else is reading that, because sometimes you can make a very pointed comment that in the context of who's reading it is very inappropriate or could be misunderstood. I also think, so sometimes, for example, on Facebook, if someone's written something that's really hurt me or offended me, or I think I have something to contribute, but I'm aware that in the group discussion it's not going to potentially go down well, I'll do a private message and have a private conversation. I think that's a really important strategy. And the other one is to sometimes take it offline and actually ring the person up and talk to them, or arrange to meet and talk about it face to face. But if you're just online and you don't have those opportunities, then I think building in respectful words and respectful sentences is really important. Making sure that people understand that you're not angry, that you're not feeling, or if you are angry, not expressing that anger, just sticking to the point, making it a very clean, simple discussion. And I think at that point, maybe that's what we mean when we say having a rational discussion. For me, it's not about necessarily stripping out any emotions, but it is checking your emotions, saying, are they actually reasonable in this situation? If they're reasonable, is it a good idea to express them at the level that I'm currently feeling? Maybe I can wind it back down to something a bit milder, because it's going to be something that lots of people can read and can be repeated and potentially do a great deal of harm.
I think medium really does make a difference. People will escalate to personal and petty remarks in an online environment much more quickly than they will when they're sitting face to face with another human being. online discussions, I think, tend to be much more agonistic. They're much more geared to winning. They're tend to be much more sort of public performance than conversations that you have where you're actually there with a person. Because the mediated environment, I think, makes it easy to forget people's humanity, a kind of humanity that's in your face when they're there in your face, and you can read their emotions. And of course, body language and jokes and things notoriously fail in online environments when they wouldn't fail if you were sitting across the table from somebody. At the same time, the online environment actually holds out an awful lot of promise, right? Because text allows you the possibility of being very clear and very precise in what you're trying to say, often much more than we are in ordinary conversation. And it allows us to include links and draw in references and say what the sources of our information are. So these differences in modality, I think, are really, really important to the quality of the argument. And we can make online discussions as human and decent as we can make face-to-face discussions. But we need to be aware of the sort of ways in which online anonymity can bring out the very worst in people. I think you're right to say that university values people being critical thinkers. I mean, it's part of our graduate attributes that people will be ethically aware and ethically literate, so that you can competently make a contribution to public discussions around, important and contentious matters like same-sex marriage. But in order to have the stature that your university qualification affords you with many people, you really have to take your responsibility seriously. To be a graduate of a university, to be a graduate of this university, is already to begin to be a kind of public intellectual, somebody they feel they ought to be able to take seriously. And, that gives you a certain form of privilege, and you need to take seriously the responsibilities that come with that. And so, when you discuss things to get to the bottom of things. Respect people. Treat them as sincere discussants. Interrogate your own emotions. They're not worthless, but they're not always right either. And just generally try and understand that your own experience is limited by a lot of factors that in the nature of the case you're not even typically aware of. So it's really important to listen. Not listen uncritically, but to listen.